It's my pleasure to introduce the Lord Mayor of Belfast, Alderman Brian Kingston. We've had this Lord Mayor's breakfast for so long that only a very few people can remember the first one. And it's a great pleasure to welcome a Lord Mayor who in that period of time may hold a record for being the fastest Lord Mayor. He ran the Belfast City Marathon just a couple of days ago in about 3:33. That's pretty impressive. And we'll excuse him if he's a little stiff as he comes to the platform.
Thank you, David. And thankfully my legs are fine. My throat might be a wee bit rough, a wee bit of a cold coming on, but I hope you can all hear me well. And yes, it's a busy year being Lord Mayor, and I go from one thing to the next. So Monday was a big event for me doing the City Marathon. I enjoyed that greatly. I had good support along the way. People either shouting, "Go on, Brian," or "Come on, Lord Mayor," or else saying, I would hear them after I passed them, they would say, "Was that the Lord Mayor?" And I would wave back. But it was a great day for Belfast, great support along the route. And it's a pleasure for me during my year to attend so many events and events that I haven't been to before. Such as your own breakfast here, although I've heard and I know it's a regular feature and fixture in the Lord Mayor's calendar each year. So I just want to add my words of welcome to you all, and thank you, David, for the invitation. Thank you, Graham and Andrew. I enjoyed that playing there. Very well played. Can't see you just at the moment. Here you are. Thank you now. I want to add also my words of welcome to our guest speaker, who we'll be hearing from shortly, from the United States, Mr. Tim Philpott. You're very welcome to Belfast in Northern Ireland. Of course, it is to America that the CBMC can trace its roots in 1930, when a group of Christian businessmen met to coordinate a series of pre-Easter rallies, and the response from the group was very favourable. And in 1938, the first international conference was held in Chicago, I understand, and bringing men and people from around the world into closer fellowship and mutual commitment. And as the years have passed, the connection has spread throughout the world, and I understand now 95 countries, is that right? Even more than I thought originally. So that very impressive international reach. And you have here today people involved in business, in government, in education, in every aspect of the life of our city and our society. And people who are making a difference, people who will go the extra mile because they believe in a greater purpose and they want the best for others. As you may know, I have just commenced my final month as Lord Mayor of Belfast. Last night I chaired my final full meeting of the Council, and in many ways I've been fortunate to be Lord Mayor of Belfast at what are in many ways very positive times for our city. I'm sure we've all been impressed by the number of construction cranes in the city skyline, around 20 at the moment, and we see the growth in tourism, in business and in education sectors in particular. 6 new hotels currently under construction, which will add another 1,000 hotel beds by the end of next year, and more than a dozen more hotels in the pipeline. 6 new student accommodation buildings responding to the new Ulster University campus at York Street and the ongoing excellent work of Queen's University and Belfast Metropolitan College, and new Grade A office space, particularly in City Quays and other parts of the city, responding to the high level of inward investment that we have. I asked Invest NI for a list of American companies in Belfast, and there were more than 50 companies on the list, some employing over 2,000 people each. At the start of my year as Lord Mayor, I set 3 particular priorities for myself. First was the inclusive growth of our economy. And as I say, we see that growth happening regularly now. Every time the employment reports come out for the last 2 years, employment has been steadily growing. We're virtually back to the pre-2008 levels, with the financial crisis then, and unemployment has been steadily falling. And particularly we have record rates of inward growth, and we want to sustain that growth and see it continue, but we also want it to be inclusive of all parts of the city. We know that economic growth doesn't spread out across society like water. When we talk about a rising tide, it doesn't quite work like that, that some parts of society will benefit more than others, and some communities will be left behind, and that can increase inequality, which is a danger for the city and for any society. So we want to support initiatives which enable everyone to fulfil their potential and to benefit from these better economic times. So we support employability programs, skills programs, and initiatives such as the new Innovation Factory on the Springfield Road at the former Mackey site, supporting the development of new high-tech businesses. We also have significant growth with inward investment in our knowledge economy, our digital economy, particularly in financial services, legal services, cybersecurity, a particular concentration of companies in that sector, and in our creative industries. And tourism is set to double in economic value over the next 6 years. And as well as the hotel growth, we have the increase in the number of cruise ships coming to Belfast. In 1995, there were no cruise ships came to Belfast. In 1996, 2 came. Last year, as you may know, there were 83. And this year there will be 88 cruise ships. We've overtaken Cork, and we're catching up with other cities for the number of cruise ships, bringing 150,000 visitors to the city. My second priority has been increasing our international connections. Just on Saturday, I attended the final game in the International Ice Hockey Series taking place at the SSE Arena. Also met Rod Stewart, as it happens. So Rod Stewart, whose son was playing for the GB team, which won the tournament. And that's one of several international tournaments we have this year, also with a field hockey tournament, the Women's UEFA Under-19 Football Championship, the Women's Rugby World Cup. And there are further international events in the pipeline. We have increasing numbers of international conferences taking place here, 74 conferences in Belfast last year, including most recently the very influential European Routes Conference with 117 airlines, 270 airports, and 35 tourism agencies all attending. And there will be new routes, air connections will come from that conference. And we have the growth in overseas students, which are so important to our universities, and the growth in our international communities in the city. My third priority has been supporting and acknowledging those who make Belfast a compassionate and caring city. And that is something during my year as Lord Mayor that I've had the pleasure of doing. It's the thing that has given me most satisfaction, that when I attend events representing the council and the city, that is giving that recognition to so many groups in the voluntary sector, the community sector, and the faith-based sector who do very important work. We can have a very successful and thriving city, but one in which people feel lost, and if they're not keeping up, that they're going to be left behind. So it's been a particular priority and pleasure for me to support those organisations which support people who need extra help and who help people feel connected to our society and that they are valued. I'm aware, I don't want to speak too much longer, we are also in a time of political uncertainty. We're facing a general election, 2 years of Brexit negotiations, our assembly is not functioning, and there's always international turbulence on the political scene. And perhaps there will always be an element of that. But I do want to say, regarding Belfast City Council, the political parties on the council do work together for the good of the city, as people expect us to do. We have published our 20-year vision for the city, the Belfast Agenda, which we want to be a shared plan that all sectors will work with us as we aim to increase the number of jobs in the city by 50,000 over the next 20 years, increase the population by 70,000, and address all those issues that make Belfast a better place to live, to work, to study, and to invest. Being Lord Mayor, I chair the council meeting, as I did last night, but my role is largely a diplomatic role. I try to do my best to represent the entire City Council and the entire city. I've had many highlights during my year, which people ask me what is my favourite event, and there are just too many to pick from. At the start of the year, we had the centenary commemorations for the Battle of the Somme, which was a major, obviously, event in a city where so many people served and lost their lives. Also had celebratory events, the homecoming for Carl Frampton after his second world title, and also for the Northern Ireland team coming home from the Euros. I got to meet them all coming off the bus and join them on the stage at Belsonic, and also the opening of the new National Football Stadium at Windsor Park, which was probably the most star-studded event I've been at this year, with Rory McIlroy, Jimmy Nesbitt, Pat Jennings, so many other stars, both locally and internationally, Marco van Basten, and others. I've also got to support initiatives addressing homelessness, addressing coordination within our city centre economy with the various organisations supporting that, and also in my own area, in the Greater Shankill area, action to address issues around mental health awareness and suicide prevention, which is a key priority across society, and again is an aspect in which we need greater coordination to address gaps and provide support for people. I visited one of our sister cities so far. I visited Boston in January, announcing the teams coming to the Friendship 4 ice hockey tournament over the next 2 years, which is for US college teams. Next, in 2 weeks' time, I'll be visiting Nashville, our second US sister city, and next week I'm going to China for a week, just so you know your rates are being well spent. But I'm told it is valuable that the Lord Mayor goes, particularly in China. They expect me to do all the speaking at the meetings, but I found in Boston we were also meeting with business people, and we have 2 inward trade missions, one in June and one in December, following on from that visit. One of my highlights, though, was also in March. I was invited to Boston for a few days around St. Patrick's Day. I attended 8 events in 3 days with the British and Irish Embassy, the Northern Ireland Bureau, the Washington Ireland Fund, but the highlight was being invited to the White House for the traditional shamrock ceremony. The Irish Taoiseach Enda Kenny presented the bowl of shamrocks to President Trump. But he also acknowledged those of us in the room who were from Northern Ireland, and he gave me a named welcome. He said that we have the head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service and the Lord Mayor of Belfast, Lord Mayor Kingston. Where are you? And I put up my hand, and he said, "You're very welcome," and talked about the Open Golf Championship here in 2019, expressed his interest in coming to that. But importantly, he also said that America's economy is getting stronger, and as our economy grows, Ireland will find us to be an ever-faithful partner and an ever-loyal friend. We will be there for you. And he looked at me and said, "And we will be there for you," which took specifically mentioning Belfast and Northern Ireland. So that was very important for us with the number of US companies here. And I got to meet him just briefly as he walked along after I presented him, or left for him, a print of the skyline of Belfast. So just in closing, during my year I have sought to be a good representative for our city and for our city council, also for my part of the city, for my party, and also as a Christian. And I have sought as far as possible to represent the entire city in my civic role. It has been a great pleasure and a great honour for me. There have also been challenges for me, things that would go beyond what I would normally choose to do. But in the civic role, I have sought to do it earnestly and represent all aspects and recognise all aspects of the city. Equally, there's things I felt would not be appropriate for me, but I have others who can help taking turns with duties. But it is very important to uphold the place of faith in public life. And I hope that I have done that in my own small way. And we live in a time when there is pressure on the Christian faith. At times people who would say they are pillars of tolerance can be actually very intolerant of faith and on a faith perspective. And it's important that we explain how our values are underpinned by our beliefs and what is important to us, and that we uphold that and stand for it, and recognize over centuries the very important contribution that Christians and Christian organizations have made to the development of our society. So I want to thank you again, David, and your members for the invitation to be here this morning. I wish you every blessing for your continued fellowship and growth of the CBMC in future years. Thank you.